All right. Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of React Wednesdays. My name is TJ Van Tol. I work as a developer advocate at Blues Wireless. And with me, I've got a special co host today, Paige Niedringhaus. Paige, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing, TJ?
Doing all right. So, longtime viewers will recognize you as returning champion, Paige Niedringhaus, a longtime guest on the show, but now you're on the host end. But if people don't know you, you want to tell people who you are, what you do, that sort of stuff?
Sure. Well, I am lucky enough to actually work with you, TJ. I am a staff software engineer for Blues Wireless as well. We only have started working together within the last few months, but prior to
Yeah.
that, I worked at the Home Depot and helped build some of their internal applications. So it's been really fun to kind of switch from a big e-commerce company to now a really small, scrappy startup.
Yeah, for sure. It's just see, I was the only one that got the memo about being on brand here today, though. So I showed up in gear.
I know I should have worn my hat.
Well, just so everybody's aware, this is React Wednesdays. This is a show we do every Wednesday, as the name sort of implies, where we essentially bring in cool, interesting people from around the React world. We have them teach us something fun and interesting. So it's something I've always enjoyed doing. And I'm going to drop a link to the site in the chat. So if you're curious about upcoming episodes, there's a link you can get the show on your calendar. So if you want to be notified when we're going live, that's the best place to do that. But today we've got an interesting topic. We're going to be talking about CI and CD for React Native apps. And for that, I'm going to welcome on our guests for today, Zain and Salman. So, hey guys, welcome to React Wednesdays. Zain, welcome back.
Hey.
Hello.
Why don't you guys start by telling us, Zain, you were here last week, but for people who haven't seen that, maybe, who you are, what you do, that sort of stuff to kick us off.
Yeah. So I'm leading the team of front-end developers at Peekaboo Guru and have been doing this front-end stuff for past 6.5 years now.
Cool. And Salman?
Hi, I am Salman. I have been working as front-end engineer at Fetch Sky for 3 years, specialized in developing efficient React web and native apps that work across almost all platforms and browsers.
So I'm very excited for this because I have some background in the native mobile space, and I can say from firsthand experience that CI and CD for mobile is hard. And like if you do this on the web and you think it's hard, you don't know anything. Like mobile is like a whole new ball game. So I've been away from the game for a while though, so I'm very curious what you have to show. But maybe you could start by just like introing the topic, right? What are we talking about? What are we trying to solve here today?
Yes, starting with CI/CD, we will discuss in this talk about the continuous integration and continuous deployments. We can the workflows in React Native app, and we'll compare with it with React web app, and tell that and discuss this that how why people think that the React Native CI/CD is difficult uh, when we compare it with CI/CD with on React web apps. So starting with CI/CD, I would like to recap or provide short description for what is CI/CD is. CI/CD basically is a method of delivering apps frequently to end users by introducing some sort of automation into these stages of app development. CI/CD basically is a solution. We can say that it is a solution to the problems faced by the development as well as operational teams when integrating the new code, and that new code may contain some sort of new features sorry new features, some sort of bug fixes, and if we break CI/CD, so CI/CD is the process of regularly integrating the software components, usually from multiple developers in a team, into the single code base. And CD is the process of regularly deploying our apps into the different environments, where CD usually involves checking our code, installing dependency, running checks whether the code is healthy or not, and build and fully test. It's fully test like integration and unit test. starting with CI in React Native or mobile apps, we can say that the workflows that we found in CI in web apps are much similar, where we write code, commit changes to our Git repository, a pre-commit hook like we discussed before, left hooks, which is capable to execute a parallel task, like unit testing, running typist compiler if we have TypeScript in our project. And then after the successful execution of these tests, and then we push our code to our repository, then CI/CD environment check out our code, then dependencies get installed and the linter run to check the format of our code, and then unit and integration test it. And these after these tests, we build our app. From the start of the code and to the build, we have similar executions, uh, irrespective of that. Web apps build on different environment, and native web build on different environment. But the CI, from checking the health of the code, from the execution of lint, these steps are same. But what are the differences between the web app and React Native is when we come with functional test, when we need to run our build on a platform that is maybe Android and iOS. So we need some sort of device, actual device, physical device, or we need emulator and simulator for E2E test cases, where we test unit and multiple software components in a shell. So these specific type of tests need devices and need environments where we can test our app. And if we talk about after these tests, successful tests, we need to distribute our build. We need to and the distribution channel between web apps and React Native apps are totally different. In web apps, we deploy our build to the staging environment for testing, or directly to the production, where user can hit that URL and get new build and new features. But on the other hand, on React Native side, we have to distribute our build artifacts to the different channels, that may be App Store, that may be iOS Store. And for uh, beta testing, before these distribution, so CI/CD can play a vital role, in which we can automate the distribution through different channels that I have to distribute this app at particular beta testing, at alpha testing, or in the production.
Gotcha. So that is a lot. Why don't we start with the easy part? Just the part, like, because you'd mentioned a lot of like your static analysis type stuff is the pretty much the same. Is it literally the same? Like, are you actually sharing like configuration and tools that are running both on your web code and your native code, or do you have to fork that at all? How do you handle that?
I think that's the beauty of React ecosystem. When you are working with React web apps and ultimately your mobile apps are powered by React Native, the best part that you get is you have those on both of those on both of those projects, be it web app or be it your mobile apps, you have that JavaScript code in place, and most of your business logic, your views, and everything that's actually doing the magic of your app actually resides on your JavaScript thread. And I think that makes it more powerful and intuitive for developers. And yes, to answer your question, you can do that if you are working for React Native. So the things, for example, if you're using TypeScript on your web apps, you might have TypeScript on your mobile app as well for React Native. You have ESLint for your JavaScript on web apps, and you have ESLint, similar ESLint on for React Native apps. And moving on, you might have some code practicing, code standard tools. For example, we discussed that code spell checker in our last talk. So you might have code spell checker on both of these platforms. You might have markdown link checkers on both of these platforms. So as Salman mentioned, that CI part within React ecosystem can be shared a lot. the issue arises when you come into that E2E test part. Because for E2E test, you have to ensure that all of your tests are actually executed on the platform that users will be using, right? So you cannot execute your E2E test into some sort of virtual DOM and stuff. You will never get that flavor of how your notifications are working, how your geolocation is working, or any other feature that are pertinent to platform specific features. You cannot test them in your what you call in your shell environment using Jest or any other virtual environment. So when it comes to E2E test, it's the point where a React Native CI differs very much from React Web App CI. And for Web App CI, it's relatively easy. You have that headless browsers available. In usually you have Puppeteer or moving ahead, you can have Cypress as well. So both are great tools. So you can have Cypress test running. That's pretty much easier because Cypress actually executes everything within Node environment, right? So you have that actually a safe side there. But when it comes to React Native E2E test, you have great libraries, and I like to mention here one. There's Detox. It is DETOX by Wix. So I'll just paste the link in the chat. You can Google it. Detox.
So
Yeah,
well,
please.
Zain, I had one question that's even kind of a little bit higher level,
Mhm.
because I've never done React Native development, just React web apps. Can you use the same build pipelines that you would use for React web apps, like Jenkins, GitHub Actions, Circle CI, those sorts of things? Do they work for React Native as well?
Yeah, that's the case. Most of them work with React Native as well. It's just about you need to have a different virtual machine executing the code. So when you are building that React Native app, you have to ensure that your VM has that Android SDK, NDKs, JDK, and all that stuff available. For iOS apps, you have to ensure that you have macOS, Xcode Select, and all that stuff available to build your iOS apps. So yeah, that I think is a major difference. Beside that, every other platform that's providing CI/CD for React apps is providing CI/CD for React Native. And in fact, I personally feel that the platforms providing CI/CD for mobile apps are much more powerful. And there are a lot of other platforms that are targeting that actual mobile app development. So CD for mobile app has grown a lot in past few years, and we have seen a lot of companies coming into it. The companies that are built around CD for mobile apps only, and they're doing great work. They are giving really great VMs. They have great infrastructure available for you. So it's quite an exciting field, especially for people who have a lot of experience in front end, have been doing mobile app development. Definitely check out Frontend Ops. It's a whole new arena for you. It's not just about deploying your simple web apps. You can also distribute your mobile apps. And here we are today discussing it.
Well, that was going to kind of be my next question. Is it seems like there's a lot of apps or frameworks out there now that are trying to be both mobile and desktop friendly, like Electron is the one that springs to mind most recently. Yeah. So is there really still a big development community that is focused on React Native versus just React and then making it mobile responsive?
I personally feel that React Native has been spending a lot, or Facebook in particular has been spending a lot. I mean, they are spending in their DNS now as well. But yeah. So they are spending in that React Native now. They have recently worked closely with Microsoft and they came up with that React Native for Windows thing. So the only problem with a web view based application or running your websites on your mobile device and having a proper native app is that user experience. We the front end developers today, we always try to deliver top notch experiences, right? We feel bad when our websites or our mobile apps feel janky. That kills us. That actually kills us inside, right? We cannot bear it. Right? Come on, I don't own anything that's janky, right? If someone come up, hey, you developed it. No, I don't know who did this. So we don't own that, and we spend our whole days and nights just trying to deliver better experiences. When it comes to web app, I think the web view and even the browsers right now, they aren't able to give that proper experience. I mean, the native experience. Even coming closer to it, PWAs are good. Ionic is spending a lot. They are doing good. Other mobile app platforms are doing good that are actually based on web viewers. But still, you can still feel that huge gap in performance, right? So you can tell from the initial gestures that either it is a web app or web view based application, or it is a proper native application, right? So and since React Native is backed by Facebook, and it is an integral part of Facebook's ecosystem, so it is powering number of apps at Facebook. It is powering number of modules in Facebook's native apps. They are spending a lot. They are, I mean, I'm really big fan of the team that's behind React Native. They are thinking a lot. They are doing a really great job, and they are trying to deliver that great experience of native UI even when you are coding into JavaScript. So I think React Native is far ahead right now from mobile-based web apps. But yeah, it all depends on your use cases.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate truth. There's never an easy answer for people. It'd be nice if we could just make one recommendation. I do have like to segue a bit, because native apps are native. You have to build them, right? And I know back in my NativeScript days, that was one of our hardest problems always, is people would have, especially iOS, right? Because iOS apps have to be built on a Mac, like period. So either you need to, your build machine needs to be a Mac, or you need to have like some sort of Mac on the network, or use some sort of service that handles that for you. So I'm curious what route you go through for your sort of CI/CD processes.
Okay, so we here at Peekaboo Guru, we usually try to have Mac machines for developers to begin with.
Okay.
And just to ensure that they are not stuck into that part where they cannot develop on iOS. Number two, that's not rigid, and you can still have your CD in the Mac environment. So there are companies who are giving Mac OS VMs for free now. I'd highly recommend. There is a great company. I would paste the link in the chat first, and that's Semaphore CI. They are doing a great job. They have great VMs available. They are very fast, super fast. And I mean, they have the comparison with GitHub Actions and GitLab CI and Circle CI as well. And I truly believe that that comparison is very right. They have great Mac OS VMs available. They have powerful machines back there. So you can just, link your GitHub repositories with those CICD tools and CI tools. They execute all of that stuff in cloud for you. And you just have to, your developers have to push the code in GitHub.
Gotcha.
So also, one more thing, sorry for interrupting. GitHub Actions does that as well. So if your repositories are on GitHub Actions, we'll discuss that later today. We have a small app available as well that has all of this CI/CD set up for you. So the GitHub link is available, I guess, in the chat. And, you can just, we'll discuss that part as well. So yeah, GitHub Actions is the tool. It's free to a larger extent. And you can utilize it for all the CI/CD part.
Very cool. Yeah, it seems like this has come a long ways since, I mean, it's been 3 or 4 years since I've been deeply involved with this, and it did not used to be this easy. So that's good to see.
Yeah, there is a lot of investment in it now. So people are really taking it seriously because, the other week, the other Dan we had, he mentioned that they are shipping 5 builds in a day, right? And that sort of speed is required on mobile app side as well. I mean, you cannot have your mobile apps being shipped every 15 days or every week. You are doing alpha, beta testing, A/B testing all the time. You have to have, the people demand. Experiences are much more intensive now. So you have to do it. So it had to happen, and it has happened.
Yeah, I'm also curious about like times as well, because I know like another concern with the builds is like compared to web apps, like building these apps can sometimes take like minutes, right? Like that's it's not unheard of for like iOS or Android apps. So I'm curious if that's been a problem for you or something you've had to work on. Like how long do your like end-to-end tests take to run?
The answer is it depends. So it depends on a number of factors. It depends on the power of your VM. It depends upon the execution you have written for your test. It also depends upon the code base of your mobile application, how much heavy it is, how much native dependencies it has, and all that stuff. But yeah, there are many methods that you can literally use to optimize your test execution. Again, you have very powerful machines now, so and that can actually run number of different simulators to test your independent E2E tests. You don't have to have just a single simulator executing one after another. Right? So you can launch number of different simulators and keep executing different tests, and you are done in a minutes. That can also save you your CI minutes that are usually paid on number of different platforms.
So is that something that you can do with both Semaphore and with GitHub Actions?
I haven't tried with GitHub Actions, but Semaphore, yeah, that's doable.
That's awesome. Parallel runs of everything make builds so much faster.
Yeah, and it saves you that extra time. You are launching your app just to test search functionality. Then you are launching your app to see that listing works fine. Then you have your login test. All these are independent things, right? And you can have them, run parallel, and then you can have the tests that are dependent on each other. So yeah, it's kind of thing. Also, the one thing that I want to mention here, when you are working with React Native apps, right? Since you are writing a lot of your code in JavaScript, right, most of your business logic resides in JavaScript. Most of your UI and view changes are actually being done on JS thread, right? So it's better if you try to have better integration tests, right? Though you cannot test, you cannot test if your Facebook login is working. You cannot test that in the integration thread on JavaScript thread, right? But you can test if your search results are appearing fine or not. You can test if your profile update is firing API or not. So you don't have to rely heavily on E2E tests. I personally believe that if you plan your test well, that can also save you a lot of minutes in CICD. So you have all that unit test executed only in JavaScript environment. You have integration tests being executed in JavaScript environment. And then you launch your detox. And then it comes to E2E tests. And in fact, Semaphore offers you to have all of these tests being executed in parallel. So while your unit tests are being executed, you can execute your integration test. And when both of these are working, you can have your a detox test in parallel. So all of these are working in parallel, and you have that. You are saving that ample time in there.
So I'm curious then, what would be the React Native equivalent of something like just like testing library? Can you still use testing library in a React Native construct?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the case. So I mean, this is really beautiful. This is where I think React ecosystem is thriving. You are bringing that mental model of your web development into mobile app development. You are taking that same mental model into VR development. You are taking that same mental model into development of desktop apps for Mac OS and Windows. You have that mental model in place that you have learned across the period, and you have those tools in place that makes it easier for you to execute all of that testing and stuff across all of these platforms.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wondered.
Yeah.
So there must be a different renderer that's been implemented for testing library to make that possible, right? Because by default, the one on the web is going to render DOM for its heavy work. So
that's the case. So we have that the library, the repository we are talking about, our testing app. It uses the testing library for React Native.
Okay.
And it comes for the renderer that comes in from that testing library package, and everything else is written in Jest. Right? So you have that kind of similar experience. I wish I can just share my screen and show you the test just to have that.
Yeah, it's interesting because I like you said, it's kind of the appeal is like even if you're using a different renderer, if you know the testing library API and roughly how it works, that sort of stuff is going to be the same.
Yeah. So let me just open up this screen. It's pretty much a basic login screen, and there are those tests. There it is. So it has this test, and you have this testing library for React Native in here.
Could you quickly bump up the font size like 2 or 3 notches?
All
That's good. Thank you.
Perfect.
We're very blind.
Yeah, as I adjust my glasses here.
So yeah, there it is. You see that it's testing library for React Native.
That's awesome.
Again, shout out to the folks who are maintaining it. Thank you. And you have all those awesome tools of testing library available for React Native. You can still, have your fetch mock here. Expects to navigate. This is a complete integration test, and it enters the login screen. It renders the login screen first, and there it is. You render your login screen component, and you fetch all of your inputs. You have your email input in there. You have your password input, and you have your button. So you import you get the instances of all of these 3 DOM elements actually. Then you fire these events of change text. You put email text in email input. You have password input, and you put that password text in there. Then you fire the button press, and then you just see that your API have to have been called with endpoint and the body and all the stuff. And then you have to see if that navigates to your home screen, right? And again, this navigate function is being mocked here up. Where it went? Yeah, there it is. So you have this mocking navigate function that you are supplying to your login screen, and you can just see if it has been called or not. And then you can also assert if your local storage, that async storage in React Native, does that has your auth token available or not. So this is one of the integration tests.
And does this test have to run like on a device, or can it run just in an arbitrary like just terminal session?
Yeah, it can run since it has been written with testing library, and that does not require you to have that actual DOM or actual device in place, and you can actually run it in your
in isolation.
Yeah, and that's
cool.
I think that you mentioned Cypress. So Cypress works for React Native just like it does for pretty much everything else DOM related?
No, that's not the case. I wish they do that. In fact, there was a small R&D here we were doing. I guess past month we were discussing this part that can we have that something that we write in Cypress and then it transformed it into detox test cases and that runs on React Native, so we don't have to actually write our E2E test twice. Because most of the time you have that similar sort of UI for mobile and web applications. We have that use case for 2 or 3 of our applications that we develop here. So we wanted to do that, but unfortunately, that's not the case right now. That can be a next unicorn if we can port it. So, yeah.
Do you have any completely native iOS or Android code that are a part of your apps? And if so, do you try to integrate those things into like your test CI processes at all?
Okay, so there are certain things. For example, we had that async storage, the local storage thing in our integration test that we discussed just right now. Async storage is a native module, right? So there are 2 things. Either you mock it when you are working with testing library, one way, or you can have that proper, you can actually test that integration of async storage in E2E environment. For that you have to run your test in detox. But if you are good with mocking them, just to see that if all the parts of the application are integrated well enough, you can do that with testing library as well.
Okay.
So it works both ways. You just have to plan.
Yeah, and I know some apps have entire there'll be apps where one screen is written in native code and one is in React Native. I'd be interesting to see too if they try to integrate, because your raw iOS tests, as far as I know, have to be running Xcode or done by Xcode, right? So I'm wondering if anybody tries to like write a test suite that it kicks off like iOS, Android, and web tests all simultaneously.
It's pretty interesting use case, but yeah, I haven't done that. We do have a library that integrates into native mobile apps. So we actually build a library that has React Native in itself. So all of those screens that are powered by our library are actually developed with React Native. And that React Native or library that's built with React Native is integrated into a number of different mobile apps. So those mobile apps can be built on Cordova or on iOS native. So I guess that's a pretty much interesting use case to have React Native testing in brownfield apps. So I haven't experienced with it, but yeah.
Yeah, I like that idea because that's something we did with like, you know, plugins, for example, are a good example of this. Like if you write some native code, it's probably easier to put it in a library, a plugin, so that way the test for that can live in isolation, and then you could just assume for your app that that stuff is tested and just bring it in. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's kind of like a separate third-party NPM library. You just assume that because it's out there and other people are using it or somebody's maintaining it, that it will be fine.
If it's on NPM and it has lots of downloads,
it's okay.
It's fine. Yeah,
it's fine. It's fine. It's safe. It's reliable.
Right.
Let's go with it. So, yeah. So one more interesting tool that we wanted to discuss today that was mentioned in our brief as well. That's Fastlane. So Fastlane is basically a build automation tool that's developed by Google, and the engineers at Google are backing it. They are doing a great job. The motto behind the Fastlane is to have automating this build processes. So the thing that TJ was discussing a while ago, that the build time for your mobile apps, that's huge, right? So Fastlane is trying to give you a better build time or a lesser build time for your mobile apps. Interesting thing is that since React Native actually builds your app for two different platforms, you can still leverage Fastlane for React Native apps. Fastlane, I believe, is not very much popular with React Native community. But if you are working with React Native apps, Fastlane is the thing you should try. It is a great tool. It actually automates those pretty much tedious tasks that you have in your workflows beside build. I mean, one of the great challenge for me every day to day for our other developers is to have that, at the end of the day, you have to ship your current mobile app to your customers to show them, see this development has been done. So these were the features that we were discussing, and all of this is done, and you can now test it. And the other day they are testing, and the business team is looking into that and all that. Or you have to send it to your designers to have the design audit thing. So one way we do it is to have Firebase in place. So Firebase app distribution works really well. It was really tedious for us, especially for me. It was on me all the time to have that, you have to pull that develop branch in. You have to make that build on your system. That takes around 20 minutes. If it is a big app, native apps, always you have that 10-20 minutes. It's simple. It's going to take that 20 minutes. So, right at the end of your day, you have to sit in front of your screen and see that build happen. And you cannot do a single thing on that machine because build is run, right? So all of your RAM is gone, everything is gone. You just have to sit and see those logs. Right? Mm-hmm. And then you have to upload that build on Firebase and go home and see, just have to email, you can have that build happen. Right? That was the most tedious thing that I've it's frustrating for us. We never like that. And the ideal thing is if we can do it via some script on something. We found out Firebase tools that are NPM tools actually allow you to distribute your apps from one command. That's very nice, right? But again, you have to do that development. And when it comes to Fastlane, what they did, there is a plugin. You just plug that single line of code in there, you are done. You just execute the line, Fastlane, distribute Firebase, you are done.
Right? Oh, I see. I was going to say, where does it go? But knowing that, so it's Google, so they have Firebase's infrastructure. So presumably you have to register for Firebase and have an account with them. Okay, that makes more sense now.
Yeah, and also it's not just about Firebase. Fastlane allows you to distribute your apps right onto the Play Store. They automate that process for you. They allow you to distribute your app in beta environments for App Store. They allow you to distribute your app on production in Apple Store, right? So from few commands, you can actually set up a whole workflow that takes your code from master branch or main branch and distributes it to your users. And everything in between is actually automated. It's not just about automating. It's about how easy it is to automate that part, right? We have been automating things using bash scripts, but we all hate them.
Yeah, we do. I hate writing bash scripts.
Yeah, so nobody likes writing bash scripts, right? So Fastlane comes in and does that all of good things for you. So you can distribute your apps easily. You can distribute your apps faster. I'll just show you a quick round where I can, actually show you how easy it is to. Oh, I guess I missed it somewhere. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's just all about a single line, and you can distribute your beta apps. Yeah.
So is Fastlane free to get started with, or is there some sort of a subscription model to it?
It is an open source thing.
Nice.
So people are writing plugins for Fastlane. People are writing. It has all those cool CI tool integrations. You can have your Fastlane running. Fastlane running in your CI environment. Be it GitHub Actions, be it GitLab CI, be it Semaphore, be it any other Circle CI or Travis. In fact, in Jenkins as well. So you can have that. You can have workflow driven by Fastlane.
I imagine they charge at some level, because I might know from firsthand experience that those builds do accumulate costs on your infrastructure over time. So, I mean, this is Google scale, so that obviously helps significantly. But
yeah, one thing that I want to mention: Fastlane doesn't provide that infrastructure. It just sits on top of your infra. So it provides that ability to automate this stuff, and that runs on underlying any infrastructure that you have. So you have GitHub Actions in place, and you have Fastlane on top of that. So your GitHub Action script actually uses Fastlane, and so it goes around like this.
Right, and then presumably Firebase is the thing that actually is going to potentially rack up a cost if you're using it a ton.
Fastlane, Firebase would be more from CD perspective. That would be more of a distribution platform. Right, so your users come up and download Firebase, your APK or app bundles or IPS from Firebase, right? And you build and ship your app from GitHub Actions. So actually, the people who are charging most, or the infrastructure, that's the infrastructure part, right? So either Semaphore will charge you, or GitHub will charge you a lot.
I see. So that's what's doing the actual build itself.
Yeah.
Okay.
So infrastructure is being used by either you are using GitLab CI, their host machine, you're using GitHub Actions, they hosted VMs, or Semaphore. So that's where infrastructure is in. And then Firebase, Fastlane actually allows you to have that automated scripts in place, number one. And then Firebase allows you to distribute your alpha builds to the specific set of users, those internal distributions. So that's how all of this ecosystem works.
Yep, makes sense. I just knew there had to have been a cost here somewhere, because like no one's gonna run 20-minute builds for you for totally free, at least not forever, right? But it's one of those things that, like, I can tell you from firsthand experience that you're better off navigating these tools and learning them than trying to do any of this yourself, because it is a hornet's nest, unlike anything you've ever dealt with before, and it's well worth it, because at the end of the day, you're still paying like small amounts of money for these things compared to the productivity gains you're getting from automating all of this. It's nuts.
Yeah, and also it piles up for the maintenance cost as well. I mean, you are having a cloud Mac OS VM, and you have to maintain it as well. You have a Ubuntu, you have to maintain it. You have to have those all updated Android SDK, NDK, JDK stuff available every time, and that's hassle. And
it is.
Don't like that. Yeah.
And when that one guy who set it up leaves the company and nobody else knows how to run it, then you're really in trouble.
Yeah, that's the case. And then you have to maintain it yourself, and you are just cursing yourself. Hi the hell.
Exactly.
So we started to briefly touch on distribution, because you said like Fastlane will like upload it to Firebase, but I'm curious then, because we could spend an entire hour about iOS and Android distribution, but does Firebase then handle like things like provisioning certificates, app IDs? Like, do you like register all of that stuff with them? Or I guess actually, not to talk too much here, but like those profiles your build tool also needs. So presumably like Semaphore also needs to know about that sort of stuff so it can actually build. So maybe you could talk a little bit and maybe start by explaining like the pain of dealing with that to people that haven't had to experience
Build
that
native
before.
apps, right?
Yeah.
So it is challenging to have all those provisioning profile, your keys, certificates, your keychain stuff, and everything available on your CD environment. It is tough, no doubt. With GitHub Actions, it is much harder. But when it comes to Semaphore, they have an amazing plugin for Fastlane that handles all of this stuff for you, right? So you just place your 2-3 files in on your Semaphore dashboard, and then it's done. So everything is handled by the Semaphore plugin that takes up all these files, supply it when they are required, and they actually prepare a final build for you. So it's a challenging part, but yeah, there are companies who are investing in this, and you can obviously find great solutions.
Do they handle helping you create some of those files? Like, or do you still have to like manually go through the processes and then upload them to Semaphore?
Yeah. So one thing that I was experimenting today, when you initialize Fastlane for iOS apps, it starts asking you questions. So it will just ask you to log into your Apple account. Next thing, it will ask you the team you want to work with. The team you want to select, you will select the team. Then it will ask you the developer account you want to use. I want this developer account. You are done. The next thing, they'll ask you which app you want to use. And you say that, and in fact, it checks if your bundle ID is already registered with your Apple account or not. If it is registered, it moves up. If it isn't, it will ask, should I register? And you say yes. They go there, they register thing, right? They come back and say, okay, it is registered. Now, what do you want to do? You want to, your app's name is not there. Do you want me to add it? You just enter your app's name and done, boom. You have it all set up. So that's also the beautiful thing about Fastlane. You are starting a new project. You just initialize Fastlane. It takes care of all of this stuff. Not just for iOS. You have that since you are distributing your app on Play Store as well. So you need to have that service account availability. So Fastlane has that supply action that take care of the service accounting, and you can have supply takes you to this journey where it tells you now go there, just create that service account, place that JSON file here, and everything is on me, and then takes up your mobile application from your system, it builds it, and boom, it uploads it on your beta distribution on Play Store as well. So yeah, there are tools. Fastlane might help, Semaphore might help, and they both together work like a jam. So you can leverage both of them, and you'll be awesome.
Is that your preferred stack for CI/CD?
Yeah, we prefer Semaphore, Fastlane for both of our library distribution and for our mobile apps distribution, and we are just enjoying it.
Cool. I know you wanted to demo some of this.
Yeah.
Is this a good time to show off some of this? Because I want to make sure we have time to see some of this in action.
Okay, so I can just pull up a little bit about the CD workflow, or if Salman can pull up something before we dive into this, a little bit about the CI workflow with the GitHub Actions.
Sure.
All right, I've got your screen up there.
Yes, we ready example of testing app, a React Native testing app, in which we implemented left hook and GitHub Actions. First of all, here it is. Starting with, we have to add left hook as a dev dependencies in our project, and then in this file, left hook.yml, we have to introduce our custom hook. Left hook also provides some predefined hook for pre-commit and pre-push, Here we introduce CI hook, where we apply parallel execution true and skip output true, and here we execute a command which is yarn length. After that, we have to go into actions in our project, where we add a workflow. Here it is. Set up a workflow yourself, and then here it is. There are some templates available at your right side. Upload a build artifact, set up Java JDK, and when you click on this, here it is. This is a template of upload a build artifact, but I will show you which we created for continuous integration, that is named as continuous integration. And this on attribute is used for on which event we will fire this CI. Uh, and we here introduce pull request, where we saying that this CI, this test will run on each pull request on branch develop, alpha, and main. And here it is jobs, in which we define test cases. Here we name test as test, and which environment, which machine you want to run your test, that is Ubuntu latest. And then we provide steps where we check out our code, and we which actions we are using, that is check out v2, set up node master, yarn cache, then we install node modules, and then execute the command, that is yarn install, for installing the node dependencies. This is the name of the task, and this is the command. After that, we run our custom hook, which I showed before, that is left in the left hook YML CI hook. Here it is, and this is the name, and we mention this name here after the run. This is the command yarn left hook, and then run, and then the name of that particular custom hook, and name, and then run test, that is yarn test CI, and this will run through our package or JSON here, that is test CI. We will create a simple pull request here, that is new pull request, and select a branch, create pull request, and this named as CI with left hook and GitHub actions. After creating pull request, we will go in actions, and here it is. The job is starting.
And this is GitHub's infrastructure running these for you? Is that what's actually happening here?
Yes.
It's actually kind of cool. I knew this existed, but I didn't realize all of this was here.
I'm curious if either Bitbucket or GitLab offer the same kind of integrated build pipelines, because I haven't really had a chance to use either one of those in any great regards.
So yeah, GitLab CI is there. You can leverage GitLab CI similarly for this stuff. It's also good, but retail a little bit slower. But overall, it's great. Yeah.
Very cool. It was nice to see how simple it was to set up that YAML file, because that's always something that is a little bit intimidating. Well, I mean, looking at bash scripts is terrible, but you know, some Jenkins files are the same way. So seeing how easy it was to just kind of, you know, modularize the different commands that you want to happen and then just reference them and have it be able to find them was really, that's awesome to see.
Yeah.
Yes, and as here we can see that these files are an YML extension, so it is not compulsory to add these actions from here. From UI, GitHub UI, we can also add it from in the folder .github and then workflows. and it is very simple to for ptier to link this file, and it's very easy.
Awesome. So whichever way it works best for you, you can add it that way.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I would like to just show a little bit about, I guess the PR pipeline is ready. And yeah, so it's executed now. So you can
Yes.
have, just see that PR tab where it shows that it is passing all the tests. Can you please navigate this,
Awesome.
Aman? Uh, okay. So let's just quickly move towards that. We have very less time left towards that distribution side from uh, GitHub Actions actually. So is my screen on?
Yep, there we go. We're in the
Okay.
matrix temporarily. Yeah, you're good.
Okay, so we discussed about Firebase distribution. Just like Salman said, that you can have your CI workflow available. You can also have your CD workflow. And we just added this small workflow that says development distribution, right? And the development distribution actually starts whenever you have a push on develop branch, right? It runs on Ubuntu latest simple VM that has Linux. We name it just development distribution again. We like to name things. And then we have the steps checking out all of this, the thing that we did for CI job, running our test, ensuring that things are in good shape. And then we have this cache, where we cache all of our Gradle dependencies for Android. We are targeting Android right now. So yeah. And then we just install Gradle and all of its dependencies and come up with this, making it executable, that Gradle that we installed, and building our Android app, and then uploading our artifact on the task that Salman showed. Uploading artifact, same action we have used, and we just uploaded our build here in the GitHub's infrastructure. So that will be available whenever this pipeline has been executed on your GitHub repository. And then we have this distribution side. That's where all the magic happens. You install that Firebase tools globally. Then you execute this command. You get all of those secrets, groups, and app IDs and stuff from in there, and then you can release those that build of yours on develop branch to Firebase. And also you can see that we have this variable nodes here. That's actually the commit message of the head, and that we make as a release note here. And app ID, app distribution command, that takes the file that that was available by this command. And you have your app ID, you have your release notes, you have your Firebase group, and the Firebase token. So this is how it goes in GitHub Actions. I mean, we are going quite fast, but you can always dive into this repository and see how it works. Also, for production or beta distribution with your Play Store, it's quite same. You can have it on your main branch, and beta distribution also executes on latest of Ubuntu. Everything else is same. When it comes to publishing your release builds, you have to sign them. So there's an awesome open source action available in GitHub Actions that does all that fancy signing stuff for you that we were discussing a few minutes back. So you have your app bundle built here, right? And then you can sign it using this action. All of your secrets are coming in from the environment that you have with your GitHub, within your GitHub repository. It uploads your release file, and then it has this awesome upload Google Play action available. And that actually takes your build from your GitHub infrastructure and uploads it to your Play Store. It defines tracks, in-app update priority, user fraction, how many users you want to distribute to. It says 50%, and where your release notes are, and you can have that release notes files available in the text format, and it will upload that what's new section of your application as well.
This is kind of, I mean, this is impressive that you can get this much done
Yeah.
in GitHub Actions. Like I didn't even realize a lot of these were possibilities, because you're showing this. This is without like Semaphore in the picture, right? This is just like raw GitHub Actions. Anybody could just create an action and do it. So it's pretty impressive.
That's really cool.
So here's that Semaphore thing that we were discussing.
Okay.
They also have their CI pipeline, right? In that CI pipeline, you have you perform this first step where you actually install all of your npm modules and stuff, right? And then you move on to next step. Again, the good part of Semaphore is you can actually create all of this workflow from UI they have, and all of the dependencies and different stuff, right? So if you run your ESLint here, once your dependencies are installed, and then you move on and you have two parallel tasks here. See, you have that iOS test running and you have your Android test running, right? You have your iOS tests and they are in two parts. You have your unit integration tests that are actually executed in JavaScript environment, and then you have your E2E tests that are executed using Detox, right? Yeah, please.
And well, so GitHub Actions, does GitHub Actions do iOS for you? I'm guessing not.
I guess it's not on free tier.
Okay.
The last time I checked, I don't know.
Yeah. Since they're Microsoft.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know if they have it now, but last time I checked, it wasn't available. But with Semaphore, you can still have that free tier Mac OS.
Okay, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, and then once all of these tests are passed in your CI environment, you have E2E tests executed as well. Let me just open this up if it has logs available. It has. Yeah.
It's kind of crazy to me to see how much longer it looks like it takes the iOS tests than it does for the same Android tests to run.
Yeah, actually, you have to bring that Xcode stuff up, and then so it's pretty bad part. And then you have that you can integrate Fastlane right away into Fastlane is actually available directly with the VMs and Semaphore, so you don't have to actually hack around with the things. You can have your Fastlane builds done. There you see your Android build just took 3 minutes 24 seconds to build, and you have it available ready in your infrastructure, CD infrastructure.
Yeah, some of that I can say from some background is that Android, because it can run on any system, is more server farm friendly, if that makes sense. Like so like Google has an entire data centers and data centers full of these Linux servers just sitting there waiting to build Android apps. No one really has they exist, but there's not really huge server farms of these big back infrastructure. It's far less common. So it's Android can run on these super optimized systems for their pipelines, whereas Mac stuff, you just have to you find whatever servers in the cloud you've got, right? Anyone will do. You're just happy that it builds.
Yeah. I mean, if you get it for free, you will just
if you get it for free, it can take a half hour. Great. It's coming back built, so that's amazing.
Yeah. So CI/CD for mobile apps is not tough nowadays. If you are not doing it, you are missing out on the thing.
Yeah, cool. A lot less intimidating than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
We have one question coming in from the chat. Is GitHub Actions, does it support containerization services? So I'm guessing Docker type stuff.
Yeah. GitHub Actions, I guess, as far as I remember, you can use custom Docker images as well to build your mobile apps, and that would bring in actually the beauty that you can have your custom Docker image that has the dependencies that are in particular for your mobile app. You might have something that is required for your mobile app. In fact, if you want to have Ruby and Fastlane available readily, you can actually have your custom Docker image and that has Ruby, Fastlane, everything installed, and you run your CD in there, and that would be fast.
Man, if I'm taking one thing away from this talk, it's that GitHub Actions could do a significant amount more than I realized it could do.
Yeah.
I want to put out a last call for chat. If you do have it, that was a great question. If you have any other questions, go ahead and drop them in. And while we're waiting to see if any come in, Zain, Salman, do you want to hit us with any like sort of like links, like where if people want to learn about this, we've dropped links to these services, but are there any like anything you'd recommend for people to check out that we haven't already discussed? Anything you've got
Docs
to like,
and
yeah,
tutorials,
docs,
things like that.
anything you have to drop, if you can like list those, and we can pass those along to just help people that are interested in setting this stuff up.
So yeah, I'm working with Semaphore CI on a blog series that allows you to set up all this React Native stuff using Semaphore CI. We have already published a blog about doing it all, testing your React Native apps and then shipping it using macOS of Semaphore CI, your iOS app. We'll be coming up with an Android post soon, and also we are working on an ebook that actually encompasses all of this CI/CD stuff for React Native. So stay tuned, and I'll be sharing the links of those ebooks very soon on my Twitter.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I don't see any more questions, but we got some comments on great session, very informative. It was really awesome stuff. And if you are just watching this new, Zain, we did last week a session on React for web apps. So actually, I should just quickly, if I can find it fast, we'll see how good my Googling skills are. Actually, I should be able to find it on the site. We'll link to that, because if you found this interesting, you'll probably find the web stuff interesting as well, because they're like we brought up at the beginning, a lot of like the early stage stuff is extremely similar, right? Like the way you lint your code in that. So I am dropping that in the chat as well. But Zain, Salman, this was awesome. Thanks for coming on. I learned a lot. I've learned that life in this mobile space has gotten a lot easier since I left it. So I suppose that's the way it always works with software, but it was cool to see.
Yeah, it's getting crazy now.
Well, awesome. Thanks again. I definitely learned a lot. And for everybody else, this is React Wednesdays. We do it every Wednesday. Telerik.com/React-Wednesdays. So if you want to learn about upcoming shows, get it on your calendar and stuff, that's the place to go. All right. Thanks, everybody. And until next week.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.